I've been in the e-com space for nearly 7 years now, and our systems have helped scale 7, 8, and even 9-figure e-com brands. So today I'm going to compress nearly 7 years of e-com advice in just this one video. So firstly, we have your customers make content for you. Now within e-commerce, content can be a big problem, right? If you pay UGC creators or agencies, the content usually comes across very unnatural, and people can tell that you've paid them and they're just doing this because you paid them. So now if you can get your customers to make your content, right, or make you content, and down the line, if you like any of them, you can even bring them on board to make you consistent content. They could be a part of the team, but that's way down the line. So the gist of this is they already have the product, right? They're already a customer that hopefully likes your product, right? So you don't have to ship out your product to them, etc. as well. Little bonus there, right? And secondly, they're actually your customer, so all they're really going to be doing is giving a review of your product or talking about your product as if they're a customer, because they are a customer. So when other people see it, it comes across more natural, because it's not just some UGC creator that doesn't look like a target customer base, right? That's just making a video because you paid them. Your customers will look like your customers, which will attract other people that are your target demographic. So if you can get your customers to make you content, it's ideal, really. And how we usually go about doing this is we can either make an affiliate program. There's been times where we offered partial refunds. There's been times where we offered them discounts, etc. You can get creative with it, but just keep things simple. Create an affiliate program, email your best customers. Now you can actually choose which customers. So if you have customers that have bought from you repeatedly, let's say over 5 times, you might just reach out to them and get them to make you content, right? Because they really like your product, and I'm sure they'd be happy to actually make content for you or eventually be a part of the team. So, and number 2 is focus on CRO before anything. Now this is a mistake that I was making in the beginning, right? And it's because I didn't even know about it, right? And I'm sure maybe you don't know about it, because CRO, which stands for conversion rate optimization, is not really spoken about enough within the e-com space, to be honest. So the gist of CRO is basically improving your website to get a higher conversion rate. Now if you go check your Shopify store's conversion rate right now, whatever you use, right, it's probably somewhere around 1 to 2%. That's the average. It might even be lower. There's been cases where we've seen that, right? And the whole point of CRO is to go ahead and improve that. Now, I do have videos that go in depth of how to do CRO, but I'll give you the gist of it. So we research our competitors, we research our own website, right, with stuff like heat maps, Google Analytics. We see where people drop off, and using the heat maps and screen recordings, we see why they might drop off at that point. We come up with test ideas to test on that page, let's say the product page, and we do the current version of the website versus the test version, see which one does better, and if the test does better, we use that, right? And we just keep testing them until we get a better conversion rate. And what this does, and why it's so important, and why I suggest you focusing on this before ads or anything else, right, is because if you can get your conversion rate higher, your ads, your emails, or any sort of, or anything that you use to bring traffic to your store will convert a lot more, right? Which makes every other source more effective, right? So Facebook ads will be more effective, Google ads will be more effective, TikTok ads will be more effective, your emails will be more effective, because more people are going to be converting, right? So it's going to reduce your CPAs on every platform. So why not, right? So my point is, that's why CRO is the most important and why you should be focused on it. As I said, when it comes to CRO, I have a lot of in-depth content on it on my channel. So if you want to go check that out, feel free to do so. After this video, of course. And number 3 is using landing pages for cold ads. Now, everyone makes this mistake, but when you're running ads initially, right, you're just reaching a cold audience. Now, if you're going to be showing them ads, right, that take them straight to a product page and they're a cold audience, right, they're not really going to care. They don't know about the product. They don't really care about it, and you're just taking them straight to buy it, right? That's not going to work. Well, it might, but you're going to get really high cost per acquisitions because they just don't care enough yet, right? So what we do now is we take the traffic, cold traffic this is, to a landing page, which it could be top 5 reasons this product is blah, 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 right? Whatever. It's basically going to be a blog, right? And within the blog, let's say 50% of the way, if they've read 50% of it, they're somewhat interested. We might put a call to action. So just to be like, you can get, and we give a deal usually, so it'll be like 20% off here on this product. So, but the whole point of this is, when they read the blog or the landing page, now they know about the product, they're aware of the product. Even if they don't buy it then, now what we do is we retarget them, right? And the retargeting will just be an offer, right? Let's say get 20% off as well, for example. And when they click it, it takes them straight to the product now. But you don't want to take them straight to a product, so add to product for cold audiences, as it just doesn't really work, as I said, because they don't know about the product. Like, put yourself in their shoes. You've just seen this product and you're getting directed straight to buy it. you're probably not going to buy it. Unless you already know about the product, then you might buy it from the ad. But if you don't know about it, you're not. So the whole point of your cold ad should be to make people aware that you exist, right? And then with retargeting, then you sell. So right now, if you're just taking your cold audience straight to the product page, straight to, just try to sell them, that's probably why your cost per acquisition is high. And number 4 is going to be subscriptions and bundles will save your business. Now, I truly mean this, right? So going over subscriptions first, with subscriptions, we find it super easy to scale, right? Because you don't start the next month off with just 0, right? So if your product, let's say you have a skincare product, right, which runs out every 30 days. So people buy it every 30 days. Now you can give them 10% off if they just subscribe and they just get it delivered every 30 days. Now what happens is, let's say you made 100,000 this month, right, with subscriptions. Now, majority of those people are going to stay on, and some people forget as well, right? So let's be a bit generous. Let's say 70% of people stay on. Now next month, instead of now starting from 0 and making 100,000 again, you now started from 70,000 because 70% of those people stayed on, right? And now if you make 100,000, that's 170,000. And it kind of like a snowball effect over time. So it's going to make it super easy to scale. So if you have a product like skincare products, supplements, stuff that runs out, put them on a subscription. Now, if you don't have that, you can still use a bundle, which will increase your average order value, which is still good, right? What we usually do is we get subscriptions, we combine subscriptions and bundles. So not only does it increase our customer lifetime value, we also increase our upfront average order value, right? So bundles, pretty straightforward to be honest. Just bundle products. So instead of them buying one for, let's say, £10 or $10, they buy 3 for $20 or $25, so they get a couple percent off, right? Now this works as well as let's say you're spending $10 to acquire a customer. Now instead of them spending $10, they're spending 20 or 25 because they're getting a deal with a bundle. Now if you combine this with subscriptions, if you have a product like, as I said, skincare products, and it runs out, so you have a subscription with bundles where people can buy free, right? Free of the skincare product for cheaper, and they can subscribe to it. They're making a ton of money on the front end and on the back end, right? Because the average order value go up because they're buying a bundle, and then you have recurring payments from that customer because they subscribe. And so this basically helps you fix a lot of problems, right? I had the triangle, which I'll put up on the screen right now, which is the 3 main problems e-commerce brands face, right? And having subscriptions and bundles technically lower your cost per acquisition, right? Because more people will be buying now, right? Because there's incentives. With the subscriptions, they might get 10% off. With the bundles, they might get some as high as 25, maybe even 30% off, right? And it also increases your profitability because, with subscriptions, you have a longer lifetime value, and with bundles, you have a higher average order value. So all around, if you don't have these, you definitely should. Number 5 is don't sell on price. Now, selling on price is really a race down to the bottom if you're just competing on price. If you're selling, let's say, water, right? If you're just going to sell because you're the cheapest, right? A competitor can easily come and be like, I'm just going to lower my price and beat you. And it's just going to be a race to the bottom, to a point where none of you are making profit now. So what we do is we want to sell our stuff because it's us. So we want people to buy it because it's us, not because of the product or the price. If you make it too reliant on the price or the product, then more people are going to be lenient towards, I just want the cheapest. Now, for example, this is going to be an extreme example, but let's say Apple, right? They have iPhones, and people don't spend $1,000 on this compared to they could probably get a phone for way cheaper, right? But they buy it because it's Apple. So you want to create that effect where people buy it because it's you and not because of what the product is. And doing this, again, it helps you fix some of the main problems that e-commerce brands have, which is, profit margins are usually low. Now, if you compete on price, which a lot of e-commerce brands do, and that's what explains why the average net profit margin for e-commerce brands are like 10-20%, right? And you don't want to deal with that, right? With our clients, we make sure that we don't fall into that category. So we don't compete on price. We try to sell based off brand, right? And unique selling points and stuff like that. That way you can price it pretty high or basically wherever you want, and your profit margins will be thanking you, right? And number 6 is super important, and that is that you should test everything. Now, this has come up over and over again, right? And it's why I finally came to this conclusion, and it's that I was running ads, right? And the solution to having better ads was just to test more, right? And they have CRO. And I was like, how can I get better? Or how can we do CRO better? And the solution in the end was just to test more, right? And with everything, even when I post content now like this, right? Or even when we have content for clients, the solution to every problem we found within the e-commerce business is just to test. Test content, test ads, test on your website, test landing pages, right? Where you take people to, test everything, right? if you test everything with enough time, right, you're basically guaranteed to succeed. Like with ads, one of the main differentiators between brands with bad ads and brands with good ads is that the brands that have good ads, they usually test a crazy amount of ads, right? They test maybe 50 or more creatives, which is what we do. We test at least, that is 50 creatives a month. And this allows us to, really just hone in into what works with our customer base by testing, because at the end of the day, you're never really gonna know. You might have your own assumptions, but until you test, you won't know what your customers best respond to. And number 7 is don't make short-term plays that will cost you long-term, right? Now, a lot of brands do this, and this is a major thing, right? There's a lot of agencies that I see do this, and they'll give you short-term wins, right? But it will cost you in the long term. But they do that because obviously a lot of them have guarantees, right? Where they're like, we'll give you this much return, or you'll make this much more money within, let's say, 1 month, blah, blah. And because they give you that promise, they're just doing short-term plays in order to make a lot of money now. But if you continue working with them long term, it actually will end up costing you. And you might never know this, obviously, because it's kind of like a what if, right? Because if it happens, you still might be making more money. But if they didn't do those things, or if you didn't do the short-term plays, right, you can do this yourself as well. If you opt in for the short-term plays that will cost you long term, you might never know, but it's going to cost you long term, right? So an example, this would be a very easy example that I see a lot of email agencies do this, or if your brand, some brands do this themselves. But if you continuously send out sales emails, now it's going to work in the short term. A lot of them are probably going to buy because you're sending out, let's say, 4 a week. You're going to get a lot of purchases. But then what's going to happen is you're going to be selling out on the long term because a lot of people are going to unsubscribe. All the goodwill that you had with, your customers, it's going to go away because you just try to sell to them constantly, right? And you're not nurturing them. So all the goodwill is going to run out. And next thing you know, your customer list is basically going to be useless for a very long time, right? Because you've just repeatedly tried to sell to them, and a lot of them are going to be unsubscribing. And you want to build up your customer list, right? It helps you, especially in the long term. If you have a list of, 1 million customers, right? It's going to be really valuable. People even sell customer lists for a ton of money because of how valuable it is. And you want to play it properly, right? You want to nurture them. You might sell to them here or there, maybe on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but you don't want to continue to sell to them. For example, if you or if an agency comes in and they give you short-term wins, so they just constantly send out sales emails, your number's going to spike. That month, you might get your highest month, right, in terms of revenue. But long-term, that wasn't the correct decision to make, and you're probably going to miss out on more money than you did make on the short term. So keep that in mind. That's only one example. There's a lot of other times that this happens, right? So whenever you make a decision or whenever you hire someone, etc., and they're doing stuff like this, make sure to call them out on it. Or if you're doing it yourself, don't do it yourself either. Number 8, this one took me quite a long time to grasp, right? I don't know why, but if you're an e-commerce brand and you don't have a loyalty program, right, you need to have a loyalty program. Loyalty program, it keeps customers coming back. Now, sometimes, there's competitors that are really close, or I'll give you an example. Let's say there's Starbucks and there's Costa, right? Now, if it's someone that's, gone to Starbucks 4 times, right, and next time they're out, right, there's a Costa and a Starbucks right next to each other. Now, in the back of their mind, they might want to go to Costa, right? But if Starbucks have a loyalty program where on the 5th time you get a free coffee, now that person's much more likely to buy their 5th time as well from Starbucks. So loyalty programs, it really just keeps people coming back. If you give people points, based on how much they've purchased or how much they spend on your store, they're much more likely to come back to your store over competitors, right? Because obviously they have points with you, which means they can get more, or if they spend a little bit more, they can get a free thing, etc., right? So having a loyalty program is very underlooked, and even some massive brands, you can go take a look yourself, they still don't use loyalty programs when, in my opinion, is probably one of the best things you could do in terms of, having customer loyalty. And of course, on top, that's going to be on top of all the other stuff, right? You still want to have a good brand, right? A good product, which I'm going to get onto, right? And number 9 is without a strong foundation, everything you do will be subpar. Now, what I mean by this, because it's pretty vague, is that there's some big brands out there, and you'll be surprised. There's some big brands out there that don't have any market research. They don't know enough about their market, right? And they've kind of fluked it along and they made decent money, right? They're 6, 7, maybe 8 figures, right? But they can never get to their goal, right? Which might be 9, maybe even 10 figures, because they haven't done the research, right? Which is the foundation. Before we do anything with clients, we always do research. That's the main thing. We need to understand the market, right? So we can actually beat the market. So if you have a weak foundation where you haven't done enough research, everything you do from that point on will be subpar, so it won't be as good as it could be, right? As you can see, the person's laying bricks there. the foundation is super important, more important than anything else you put on it, right? If you just have one brick and try to stack on top of that, it's going to be very hard to stack it to the ceiling, right? Whereas if you had multiple bricks and you've done it properly in the foundation, it's going to be much easier to get to the top without it all just breaking and just falling apart. So number 10 is invest in your infrastructure. Now, there's a lot of brands that they didn't invest in their infrastructure enough, right? And so they can't keep up with demands, right? Because they've scaled too fast, for example, right? So when you're scaling, you have to keep in mind that you, at the same time, you can't just scale without investing in your infrastructure, right? There's times where brands, I wouldn't say they die. There has been situations where they have, right? I've seen it happen, but there's situations where your brand takes a big hit, right? Because you just scaled exponentially, but your infrastructure can't keep up with that much, right? You can't ship out that many, and you start getting chargebacks, returns, blah, blah, blah. And now all of a sudden, when you should have been, super in the green, you're super in the red, just because you didn't invest in your infrastructure. It's an easy thing to happen, right? You're scaling, everything's going smoothly, so you just keep scaling, and you forget to, so you invest in scaling, but you forget to invest in your infrastructure, which is what's able to maintain, the scale, right? If you can't maintain the scale with your infrastructure, it's all going to fall apart. It's happened too many times. Don't let it happen to you. So what I mean by infrastructure is obviously just shipping, right? Or handling the product, getting it packaged, and getting it shipped out to customers. You need to have that on point. When you scale, you need to scale with it. Otherwise, it's all going to collapse. Now, number 11, delegate high workload tasks that contribute less towards the bigger picture. A lot of founders or CEOs, etc., they tend to do this, and instead they try and do everything themselves. Now, you're going to be saving money, that's for sure, because you're not paying people. You're not going to pay, let's say, a graphic designer. You're not going to pay, and it makes sense why you'd go down this more hustler mentality. But the issue is, it's actually costing you more than what would it cost you to hire that person. And I'll tell you why. As the founder or the person at the top, so let's say a CEO or CMO, whatever role you have, there is things that you can do that will contribute towards the bigger picture, and it'll be a bigger needle mover than doing these high workloads. So you have to put a lot into it, a lot of grit into it, but it doesn't really contribute to the bigger picture. It's just a small part of the process, but it needs to be done, right? You're better off paying to get that delegated, right? So you can actually work on the important stuff, right? Rather than just having that hustler's mentality to, do it yourself and then work on the stuff that you're supposed to be working on. Now, of course, when you're starting off, this is the mentality you need to have. You need to have a hustler mentality. Do everything that you can yourself. Once your brand starts picking off, if you continue to do things that took you from, let's say, from 0 to 100K, if you continue to do the stuff that took you from 0 to 100K, they're not the same stuff that's going to take you from 100 to a million, right, a month. It's not the same stuff that's going to take you from a million to 10 million a month. And a big part of that is being able to actually get rid of the hustler's mentality and actually delegating tasks to people or employees or maybe third parties, right? Especially ones that are high workload and they contribute less towards the bigger picture. And there's also times that I should mention where if it's a high workload and it contributes less towards the bigger picture, it might just be a task that doesn't need being done. Right, so you might just have it not be done altogether if it doesn't contribute much towards the bigger picture. So keep that in mind as well. But if it still needs to be done, of course, delegate it. Number 12 is shiny object syndrome. It's stunting your growth, right? A big talking point now is AI. And of course, I'm not saying AI is bad. We actually use AI chatbots with our clients, right? And it's actually helped out quite a lot. But that's on top of everything we've already done to actually help them scale. And it's just a small component that helps out a bit more, especially in terms of profit margins, because we don't need as big a team, for customer support, because we have AI that resolves, I think, 80 to 90% of our cases with some clients, right? So we'll be able to greatly cut down on support teams. But that's not going to save our business. If you want to have a successful e-commerce brand, the things you want to focus on, right, is your research, which is the foundation, as I said, so CRO, and then you want to focus on the ads, get them really good. You want to focus on your emails, get them really good, and then obviously you can have landing pages, stuff like that, and just get really good at those few things that I've just mentioned, right? And I'll put a picture right here which goes over, I'm pretty sure, 7 things that you just need to do really well, which will help you scale, and reach your goals, right? But then thinking that this one AI or one app is going to completely just fix your business magically, right, is wrong. And doing that and just constantly trying something new doesn't work, being like, okay, that just didn't work, trying another thing that's new, etc. Just doing that is starting your growth. Just getting good at the basics is what's actually going to grow your business, not just this new AI that just came out. It can obviously help, just like with the chatbot example I gave, but that's just help. It's not going to fix anything, right? It's just going to help on top of if you already have a good foundation of doing the basics well. Number 13 is having a good product solves most of your problems. When I say most, I mean 99%. And vice versa, this is true as well. Having a bad product will create most of your problems. If you have a really good product, as long as you get some traffic to it and get people buying, right? If it's really good, let's just create a scenario here. You have the best product in the world. Even if you were only able to afford or just get 10 people to buy this product, right, with ads, and now you run out of money, you can't run ads anymore, right? Let's just give this as an example. If it's a really good product, those people will refer their friends, family, etc. And all of a sudden you're getting a ton of traffic. And now if you continue running ads, because you've had a bunch of good word of mouth, your ads will start doing better as well, because that person that's seen your ad, there's a higher chance that they've probably heard about your product. So your ads will perform better. Everything will perform better. If you have subscriptions, more people will continue to pay the subscription instead of cancelling because it's a good product. The point I'm trying to make is a lot of people have a bad or a mediocre product and they try and make up for it with their marketing, their website, whatever. That's not going to make up for a bad product. You might get so far, right? But you're not going to get to the established 7, 8, 9-figure brand status, right? If you have a bad product. That's never happened before. It's never going to happen from now on. And if you want to find out how we spend less on ads and make more money, I'll be putting a video right there with the arrows pointing. That's it, and I'll catch you guys next time.